Do you enjoy a good scare? I do. There's something about the thrill of fear, the way it prickles your skin and quickens your pulse. It's a primal instinct, a reminder that we're alive. I love hearing about other people's terrifying experiences, especially those involving the unknown. The internet is full of creepypastas and Reddit horror stories, but nothing beats a first-hand account. So if you've ever had a chilling encounter that left you shaken, I want to hear about it. Share your stories in the comments. Let's give each other goosebumps. By the way, are you a fan of horror podcasts on Spotify? The spine-tingling narratives, the eerie sound effects? They really get under your skin, don't they? This is Mehul's story. It all began in the summer of 2022, just as the world was emerging from the shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mehul and two friends, Akash and Ria, decided to escape the confines of their homes and embark on a much-needed vacation. Their destination, the picturesque hill station of Shimla, nestled in the Himalayas. Mehul, we piled into our trusty Maruti Suzuki Swift, excitement bubbling in our chests. The open road beckoned, promising freedom and adventure after months of lockdown. We sang along to Bollywood hits, the wind whipping through our hair, our hearts light with anticipation. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. As they neared Chandiga, a sharp bang echoed from the engine bay. The car sputtered, coughed, and finally rolled to a stop on the side of the highway. Stranded and frustrated, they realized their Shimla dreams were dashed, at least for now. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the highway, desperation set in. They needed shelter for the night. Mehul, scrolling through my phone, I stumbled upon a listing on Airbnb, a beautiful sprawling bungalow on the outskirts of Chandigarh, available at an unbelievably low price. The host, a Mr. Singh, sounded pleasant enough on the phone. Desperate times called for desperate measures, we thought, and booked the bungalow for the night. As we unpacked our bags, the eerie silence of the bungalow began to settle in. Shadows seemed to dance in the corners of the room, and an unsettling feeling crept over us. We tried to shake it off, attributing it to our tired minds playing tricks. The old wooden floors creaked under our feet as we explored the house. In one of the rooms, we found a dusty old photograph of a family, their faces eerily familiar. A chill ran down our spines as we realized the resemblance to Mr. Singh. The wind howled outside, adding to the growing sense of unease. That night, sleep eluded us. Every creak and groan of the house seemed amplified in the darkness. Suddenly, a loud noise jolted us awake. We rushed to the source, hearts pounding. An old door we hadn't noticed before was now ajar, leading to a dark basement. We hesitated, fear gripping us, but curiosity won out. We descended the stairs, the air growing colder with each step. In the basement, we found an old, dusty journal. Its pages were filled with cryptic notes and drawings. As we read, the horrifying truth began to unfold. This bungalow had a dark history, one that Mr. Singh had conveniently left out. Determined to leave, we hurried back upstairs, only to find the front door locked from the outside. Panic set in as we tried to break the door open, but it wouldn't budge. We were trapped, and the realization hit us like a ton of bricks. Shadows moved around us, and the air grew thick with tension. Through the window, we saw a figure standing outside, watching us. We backed away, fear gripping our hearts. We knew we had to find a way out, but how? In our frantic search, we discovered a hidden passage behind a bookshelf. Crawling through the narrow passage, we hoped it would lead us to safety. Finally, we emerged outside, breathing a sigh of relief. We ran towards the highway, not daring to look back. Flagging down a passing car, we told the driver our story. As we drove away, we looked back at the bungalow, its dark silhouette fading into the distance. We finally arrived at a safe place, our hearts still pounding from the ordeal. Sitting together, we realized how close we had come to a real nightmare. We vowed to never return to that bungalow and to always be cautious of too-good-to-be-true deals. As the sun rose, we drove away, grateful to be alive and together. Our Shimla dreams may have been dashed, but we had a story we would never forget. The bungalow was even grander in person than it appeared in the photos. Its once majestic structure now stood as a haunting reminder of a bygone era, with peeling paint and dark, hollow windows that seemed to watch their every move. A sweeping driveway lined with overgrown weeds and cracked pavement led to an imposing double-door entrance. The doors, though grand, were weathered and creaked ominously as they approached. But as they stepped out of the car, a strange unease settled over them. The air was thick with an almost tangible tension, as if the house itself was aware of their presence and was watching them closely. It wasn't anything they could put their finger on, just a feeling, a prickling at the back of their necks, the kind of sensation that makes one glance over their shoulder expecting to see someone, or something, lurking in the shadows. Mr. Singh, as Mr. Singh, "Welcome, welcome. Please come in, let me show you around." Mr. Singh greeted them with a warm smile, but his eyes held a glint that made them uncomfortable. It was as if he knew something they didn't, a secret he was reluctant to share. He showed them around the house, which was filled with antique furniture and dusty portraits that seemed to follow them with their eyes. Each room they entered felt like stepping back in time, yet there was an underlying sense of dread that permeated the air. The air was thick with the scent of incense and something else they couldn't quite place, something musty and old. It was a smell that hinted at long-forgotten memories and secrets buried deep within the walls. Mr. Singh, as Mr. Singh, "There is one room at the end of the hallway that you should avoid. It's just an old storeroom filled with junk, nothing to worry about." But the way he said it, his voice barely above a whisper, sent shivers down their spines. It was as if the room held more than just forgotten items, perhaps a dark secret or a hidden past. They tried to shake off the unsettling feeling, telling themselves it was just their imaginations running wild. Yet the more they tried to dismiss it, the stronger the feeling grew, gnawing at the edges of their minds. But the bungalow had an undeniable aura, a sense of secrets hidden beneath its charming facade. It was as if the house was alive, whispering its stories to those who dared to listen, waiting for the right moment to reveal its true nature. As night fell, the bungalow transformed. The once welcoming facade now seemed to loom ominously, casting long shadows that crept across the lawn. The air grew thick with an unsettling stillness, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Shadows stretched and danced in the flickering light, creating eerie shapes that seemed to move with a life of their own. The dim glow from the old lanterns only added to the sense of foreboding, casting ghostly figures on the walls. The silence was broken only by the creaking of the old house and the rustling of leaves outside. Each sound seemed amplified in the stillness, echoing through the empty halls and adding to the growing sense of unease.
We tried to watch a movie, but the television kept switching channels on its own, the static buzzing with an unnatural intensity. It was as if the house itself was trying to communicate, sending us cryptic messages through the flickering screen.
Then the noises started. At first they were faint, almost imperceptible, but as the night wore on, they grew louder and more insistent. It was as if something was trying to break free from the confines of the old walls. A faint humming coming from the locked storeroom, growing louder and more insistent as the night wore on. The sound was both mesmerizing and terrifying, drawing us closer to the door despite our fear.
I could have sworn I felt a cold wind brush past me in the bathroom, even though the window was shut tight. The chill seemed to seep into my bones, leaving me shivering and on edge.
Ria, too, was plagued by strange occurrences. She felt an invisible presence watching her, its gaze heavy and oppressive. Every time she turned around, she expected to see someone standing there, but the room was always empty. She woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps pacing outside her door, only to find the hallway empty. The footsteps were slow and deliberate, as if someone was taking their time, savoring each step.
Trying to rationalize the events, I blamed the old wiring and drafty windows. But deep down, I knew that no amount of logical explanation could account for the sheer terror we felt.
But Mehul and Ria couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The sense of dread was palpable, hanging in the air like a thick fog. Every corner of the house seemed to hide a secret, waiting to be uncovered. They were trapped in the house with an unknown entity, its presence growing stronger with every passing hour. Sleep was impossible. Every time they closed their eyes, they felt the weight of the unseen force pressing down on them. They huddled together in the living room, fear tightening its grip on their chests, every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind sending their hearts racing. The night seemed endless, each minute stretching into an eternity as they waited for the dawn to break. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the cracks in the curtains, they decided they couldn't take it anymore. They had to confront Mr. Singh.
We demanded an explanation for the strange happenings of the night.
Mr. Singh greeted them with the same unsettling smile, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. His smile faltered, replaced by a look of something akin to pity.
This house, it has its secrets. Things happened here long ago, things that are best left undisturbed.
His words did little to calm their fears.
We demanded to know what had happened, what secrets the house held.
But Mr. Singh remained evasive, his answers cryptic and unhelpful.
Leave. Forget about the bungalow and everything you have experienced within its walls.
His words were tinged with an urgency that sent chills down their spines. Mehul, Akash and Ria didn't need to be told twice. They packed their bags in frantic haste, their hands shaking, their minds replaying the events of the night. They didn't care about Shimla anymore. They just wanted to get as far away from the bungalow and its secrets as possible.
We just wanted to leave, to escape whatever was in that house.
Mr. Singh watched them go, a mixture of sadness and relief etched on his face. As they drove away, they could see him standing on the porch, his silhouette framed against the rising sun, a solitary figure in the stillness of the morning. The drive back to Delhi was a blur. They rode in tense silence, the weight of their experience pressing down on them. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something was following them from the bungalow.
Finally, we reached the familiar streets of our hometown. The relief we felt was palpable, like a physical weight lifting from our shoulders.
They had escaped the bungalow, but the memory of that night, the feeling of dread and the unanswered questions, lingered like a shadow. Back in the safety of their own homes, they tried to make sense of what had happened. They scoured the internet for information about the bungalow, but their searches yielded no results. It was as if the house didn't exist, erased from history.
They couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something dark and ancient, something that was better left undisturbed.
The locked storeroom, the strange noises, Mr. Singh's cryptic warnings, it all pointed to a history steeped in mystery and fear.
I often think back to that night, the terror that gripped me, the feeling of being watched, of being hunted. I know deep down that I will never truly understand what happened at the bungalow.
But the experience left an indelible mark on his soul, a chilling reminder that there are some things in this world that are best left unknown.
Do you have a story to share? Leave a comment below and tell us about your own terrifying experiences. And don't forget to subscribe for more spine-chilling tales from the dark side.